Today, we're diving into one man's absolutely incredible story. It's all about taking control when you're handed a devastating diagnosis, a journey that really makes you question what's possible when conventional medicine hits a dead end.
This one sentence from a man named Marcel, it just captures the whole spirit of his story, doesn't it? It's all about what happens when the standard path is completely blocked, and you're left with no choice but to carve out your own. So let's get into it.
All right, first up, let's talk about this impossible diagnosis. Our story begins not with someone who was sick, but with a guy who was, by all accounts, the picture of health. That is, until one day when everything just changed in an instant.
So, at 50 years old, Marcel was doing everything right. You know the type. Working out 4 times a week, eating clean, keeping stress low. He was in great shape.
Then, bam, right in the middle of a workout, his whole world gets turned upside down. He feels dizzy, and then he just collapses. He gets rushed to the hospital, they run a bunch of scans, and that's when they found it.
The diagnosis was just devastating, an inoperable brain tumor, and this thing was causing these incredibly violent tonic seizures. They were so bad that his heart, which was really strong, had almost stopped twice. The doctors told him he was literally turning dark blue from a lack of oxygen.
And here's the real kicker. He's at one of the best hospitals in the Netherlands, with top surgeons looking at his case. But the tumor was in such a tricky spot, they all agreed that surgery was just way too risky. So they essentially told him, look, we can't help you. All we can do is watch.
So that brings us to the next part, the radical experiment. You have to ask yourself, what do you do in a situation like that? No treatment, just waiting. Well, Marcel decided he couldn't just wait. He had to find his own answers. He had to take control.
Now, Marcel was already pretty familiar with the whole keto lifestyle, so he knew the basic idea, right? You cut way back on carbs, your body starts burning fat for fuel. Well, he started digging and stumbled upon research about an even stricter version, the carnivore diet. The theory, to put it simply, is that a lot of cancer cells just love glucose, which comes from carbs. So the hope is, if you completely eliminate carbs, you might just be able to starve them out.
And that was exactly his mindset. He figured, hey, I've got nothing to lose. So he made a decision, kept it to himself, and began his own radical experiment, a 100% carnivore diet.
So, what happened? What was the result of this N-of-1 experiment? Well, that brings us to part 3, the astonishing result. For 3 years, Marcel absolutely committed to this new way of life. He kept up with his medical check-ins, but he didn't tell a soul about the massive dietary change he was making.
I mean, just try to imagine this. For 3 whole years, every 6 months, he's going in for an MRI scan. All the while, he's sticking to this diet of basically meat, eggs, and bacon. And his doctors, who have no idea, are just monitoring the tumor. He had zero proof it was working. Talk about a test of faith.
And that leads us right to the moment of truth. After 3 years of this incredibly disciplined experiment, what did that final, decisive scan actually show?
He gets a call from his surgeon, and the news is just unbelievable. The tumor was gone. The surgeon's exact words were, "We're not finding any tumors left in your brain."
And the reaction from the doctors? Well, that says it all. A whole team of 5 or 6 specialists had to look at the scans just to make sure they weren't missing something. They told him flat out that they never see this happen on its own. They were so fascinated, they actually asked him to come back in for an interview just to find out what in the world he did.
So, what happens after something like that? It didn't just change his health, it completely rewired his whole philosophy on how to manage his own well-being. Let's look at that.
I mean, the change was just night and day. He went from suffering these life-threatening seizures, needing medication to control them, to being completely seizure-free. No medication needed, at all.
So he came up with this really simple, super intuitive system for managing his new life. Every single morning, he just asks himself, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, where's my energy? If it's a low number, that's a rest day. Simple as that. If it's a high number, hey, that's a green light to hit the gym or maybe do a fast. It's all about listening to his body.
And this newfound confidence got put to the test not too long ago. He saw a new doctor, and his blood work came back showing cholesterol that was 250% higher than normal. The doctor, of course, immediately wanted to put him on statins, but Marcel, instead of freaking out, just calmly refused. He explained his lifestyle, the research he follows, and pointed out that, hey, his triglycerides were excellent. And to the doctor's credit, he was actually open to hearing about it.
So, when you boil it all down, what are the biggest lessons from this incredible journey? Well, it really comes down to a few key insights he's picked up along the way.
Beyond the whole tumor thing, Marcel talks about this massive improvement in his mental clarity. He says keeping a low body fat percentage is just effortless now. He describes his lifestyle like a coat that fits just fine. His advice for other people is to start from scratch, a clean slate, and figure out what actually works for your body. But he's also really clear. This is his story, his personal experience. It's not medical advice.
But for anyone out there who might be struggling, feeling like they've hit a brick wall with their health, his message is pretty simple. He says, give it a shot. Try changing what you eat for 30 days or 60 days and just see what happens.
And that really leaves us with this big, thought-provoking question, doesn't it? Marcel's story is an outlier for sure. It's one person's experiment with an amazing outcome. But it really makes you wonder, when we're backed into a corner, faced with an impossible situation, how much power do we actually have to take control and influence our own health?